Welcome to No Time to Explain. Ime Udoka's NBA career is likely over, and here's why. Get straight into the point. We're talking about Ime Udoka. If you don't know who he is the head coach for the Boston Celtics. So last week, a story came out about Ime Udoka possibly being suspended for the upcoming NBA season. However, the details that the Boston Celtics organization provided were very sparse, and it led to a lot of speculation about what happened. And when the internet is provided little information, they go into detective mode. And that's exactly what happened. They started to speculate about what the suspension would be about. A day later, or a couple days later, I think it was like a day later, a day after the breaking news, we found out that Ime Udoka was involved in an affair with the woman of the Boston Celtics staff. Now, this woman has yet to be named, which rubbed a lot of talking heads the wrong way. One of the most vocal media personalities being Stephen A. Smith. His issue is the way that the Boston Celtics handled the situation with making it public and leaking the information to the public. He expressly stated that if you're not going to fire Ime Udoka, then why is this information public? But he had a couple other thoughts as well, which we're going to go ahead and play here. So I'll go ahead and play the clip so you guys can see Stephen A's thoughts, and then we'll dig into what I feel about the situation later.
Into what you just heard.
I didn't think coming into this show that I could get more furious, but I am. Woj, first of all, to you, thank you for your reporting on this story, on top of everything, as always. All I'm going to do is give you my perspective. I certainly don't expect you to have comments about that. Wick, the owner, Wick Grausberg, I like him. I've known him for years, constantly running across him, made in many Celtics events, been very fond of him. Incredibly disappointed today. Ime Udoka cannot be defended. His actions were egregious, irresponsible to be in the leadership position that he is in. I'm not here to make any excuses or any apologies for his behavior. It is inexcusable. It's a fireable offense as far as I'm concerned. But it doesn't negate what the Celtics are doing here. According to your reports, Woj, and what we have been talking about over the last couple of days, this was a consensual relationship. Was Ime Udoka involved with himself? The answer to that question is no. Two consenting adults engaged in this act or these actions that clearly were in violation of the Boston Celtics policy. But all we're hearing about is Ime. And to Wick Grausberg, who I profoundly respect, I would strongly advise you. Grausbeck, I'm sorry. I apologize. I don't know why I said Grausbeck. To Wick, I would strongly advise him. Maybe he should speak to a publicist or take some classes himself, because he threw out a couple of bombs there about Ime Udoka. Implications that feed stereotypes and things of that nature. And I'm not going to regurgitate what he said, but it was very, very alarming. Highly one-sided. And as far as I'm concerned, based on this press conference, there is no reason on earth right now why Ime Udoka is still a head coach of the Boston Celtics, albeit a suspended one. Because not only did you suspend him, but Woj, correct me if I'm wrong, he also said, then we'll reevaluate after next year. So you retain his right.
That was very gray, that whole part of it. What does he need to do between now and June to retain his job?
He didn't answer that, number one. Number two, he didn't make a declaration that after the year suspension, Ime would be back. He said, we'll revisit it then. Now, I understand that at this particular moment in time, Woj, you and I both know, covering the NBA for as long as we have, that Ime Udoka is an unhirable individual. But the unhirable portion of it, I would make the claim, is primarily due to the fact that the story was leaked out and we are now discussing it publicly. That's what would make him unhireable. If you didn't know, if NDAs, non-disclosure agreements, were signed and this was sort of kept in-house, but you fired him, who knows what the chances are. But after this press conference, the NBA itself, not to mention any team in the league, You can't touch Ime Udoka at this particular moment in time because of the implications that were given at this press conference. I mean, my God. Listen, let's go back, and I'm not going to sit up there and regurgitate it again, but go back and listen to Wick talk. I'm very alarmed by this, Woj, and I'm going to just leave it at that for the moment.
Okay, so I want to touch on a couple of things that Stephen A. mentioned. One is, why are we only hearing about Ime and not the other party involved? In my opinion, I think it's unfair, and I think it's very hypocritical of the Boston Celtics, considering the woman who Ime slept with was the wife of the vice president of the Boston Celtics, or one of the vice presidents of the Boston Celtics. I actually believe that plays a factor into how they handled the situation. Whoever the person is, he clearly holds a lot of power within the organization, because the Celtics have yet to release a name. And to my knowledge, no punishment has been given to the other party involved in this situation, which has a lot of people questioning the way that the Celtics are handling this situation. The way that the press conference went, the way that they released the information initially, it just doesn't smell right. In fact, it stinks. And to Stephen A.'s point, why has this case been publicized if you're not going to fire the guy? And to be frank, I think they really wanted to make an example of Ime. And considering the rank that the husband has, the VP in this Boston Celtics situation, I think this has everything to do with how they handled the situation. And again, I can play devil's advocate, and I can understand why it has been publicized. It's the head coach of one of the most exciting NBA teams, and he's been caught in a scandal. And as NBA fans, we haven't really seen this before. So if anybody needs Olivia Pope right now, it's probably Ime and the Boston Celtics. I want to talk about the suspension. So Stephen A. said Ime should be fired. And if you're not going to fire him, again, why make it public? As of now, Ime has been suspended for the entire 2022 to 2023 NBA season, which is a huge blow to the Celtics organization, as Ime was a first-year head coach who led his team to the NBA Finals, which is actually very impressive considering how the Celtics started the NBA season. If you remember, they struggled to even play winning basketball in the beginning of the season. There was a lot of tension within the offense in the locker room. So if you remember, between Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, they weren't moving the ball on offense. The defense already knew that they were going to go to either Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown, which made things very difficult. And it made for a very inefficient offense. Marcus Smart and Ime both talked about this publicly. So to experience that type of turnaround and actually make the NBA Finals and end the season in the fashion that they did is pretty impressive. So that being considered, it makes me wonder if that factored into the decision of the Boston Celtics not to fire Ime Udoka. Does his success last season play a factor into their decision? It seems like they may have wanted to keep the guy around, even with the information that's come out about this case. But again, as they mentioned, they said they're going to revisit the decision next year, and they don't know if they're going to keep the guy. So it just smells like a bad situation. I have a problem with that because it just shows the many ways that the Boston Celtics organization is hypocritical. If you're truly in the pursuit of justice when it comes to employees following the code of conduct, then that pendulum needs to swing both ways and not just one. I know Kendrick Perkins has also been vocal about the organization's decision to conceal the details of the woman and not punish her as well. And I agree. I think it's just very unfair and, like I said, hypocritical to handle the situation in the fashion that they did. So my final thoughts on this is, while it's unfair, Ime has no one to blame but himself. He knew the rules and he broke them. And since he's an employee of this organization, the punishment that they give, he really has nothing to fight back on. Me personally, I feel like a year isn't excessive. It seems more so they are going to fire him and his NBA coaching career is over. By the way that they handled this, by the way that the press conference unfolded, if Ime is fired, it's unlikely that he's probably going to be hired in the NBA ever again. But what sucks about it is there were so many conflicting reports that raised a lot of eyebrows, such as the relationship being consensual and then reports coming out that it was non-consensual. It really seems like the go-to play when one party lacks accountability for their decisions. And I don't think that's fair, it does seem both parties were to blame, but it's going to have more of an impact on Ime than anyone. I'm not here to judge, nor am I the moral police. I think the consequences should be equal, and there should be consequences to those actions. But all I'm saying is those consequences must be as unbiased as possible. And right now, it doesn't seem like the Celtics are playing fair ball. Now, for a Bucks fan, I'm gonna say one thing: Bucks in 6. If Middleton didn't get hurt, we would have wiped the floor with the Boston Celtics, and they wouldn't haven't even seen the NBA Finals, considering the performance that Giannis put on. But I'll leave that at that. This has been an episode of No Time to Explain. If you like what you heard, go ahead and like, comment, and subscribe. Also, let me know in the comments: do you think the punishment is fair? Do you think that they should reveal the identity of the other party involved? Should she have a punishment? If so, go ahead and explain in the comments. But until next time, I'll see you guys later. Peace.